All right, good morning, good morning. All right, what I'm going to mention today, or what I want to talk about today, is taking advice as a writer. This is an old art form. It's one of the art forms that date intelligent civilizations, and people have been writing books, film, stories. You know, I call myself a griot, and they mastered it years before, you know, we even tried to do it. And there's just incredible tools out here that have been around for years to help you try to do it. I mean, there's things like Grammarly and voice to text, or saying your words and your phone or your computer types them up. Sure, those are like new tools, but I'm talking about like traditional tools, and using those. As a self-taught writer, I had to go back and use or see the value of some of these tools. I didn't go to school to write, so nobody made me write an outline. Nobody made me proofread. So I had to learn the value of these techniques and tools and elements of the writing process on my own, or just possibly through not using them and seeing, whoa, let me go back and add that element, and wow, you know, things have really helped me out. And also, I'm a hard-headed person. I don't like being told what to do. I mean, you can tell me what I need to do, and then I'll decide when I'm going to do it. I don't like being told, like, do this, do that. So it's really hard. I'll take advice, but I like to take information and use it myself rather than somebody telling me, do this, do that. Now, you can also tell me what to improve, and that's fine. Or what you think that's fine. So let me get into it real quick. I got a list of maybe 10 things. I think I narrowed it down to 10, but I keep adding more. Man, this phone is really shaky. I added more, so let's get in. One of the things that, and I think there's no order for this. I didn't even stop to put it in order. It's kind of how I thought of them. So it's not really in any order. And this is and some of them are good for film, some of them are good for book, and some of them are good for comic books and just memoirs and other things like that. So anyway, first one I'd like to mention is rewrites. I'd like to do rewrites, you know, when I watch a movie, sometimes when I watch a book, I like to say, you know what, if they'd have done this, you know, or they'd have done that, like, you know, we're in the time of Infinity Wars, so I'm thinking, you know, if I didn't like the way they put the Hulk in the movie, you know, and I was telling my son, you know, they could have added a different element in the comic books. I learned that Hulk didn't want to transform into the Hulk to help them fight the invaders in Wakanda, because he was upset that they kicked him out of Infinity Wars, or it had something to do with him not being viewed as a hero. He didn't want to destroy Wakanda like he had destroyed the city when they had to have the Hulkbuster in the first place, when he was under possession, and he just felt he was a raging animal. And I thought that was cool, you know, to make him feel scared. I thought the Hulk was beyond fear. I didn't think a beatdown, an ass whooping would hurt Hulk, you know, or push him away, but it seemed like it did. And so I thought, you know, I was like, you know, it's not no big major thing. He could have just said, when he was in Wakanda and Banner was in the Hulkbuster, he could have just said to Banner, yo, I'm crazy. Ragnarok is a better place for me. Whatever the heck it was, you know, I don't want to destroy the city. I can't control myself. Hulk is an animal. Hulk is a monster. And just had like some nervous breakdown, as opposed to looking like I'm scared to fight Thanos. Dude, that wasn't even Thanos, okay? So get over it, okay? You're fighting a big monster dude like you. You should be able to beat that dude up. All right, so rewrites. Second one, a timeline. my book, Welcome to Boss Lady's Planet, was a big story in terms of it took place over a variety of planets, and I wanted to plant seeds in the beginning, which, translated to the solution of the problem. And I was, sort of like Avengers. You had small battles. You didn't have one linear story. It wasn't Man on Fire. It was different characters solving different problems that come together to solve a bigger problem. And you kind of piece those things together. And giving me a timeline, I was able to say, all right, I'm going to show them real, mini story arcs. They learn the problem here, they find the solution, and then they achieve it here. So I didn't just devote a section of the book to just one element. I mixed it up. So Team A would find their problem, Team B would find their problem, Team C would find their problem, Team B would find the solution to their problem, Team A would find their solution. So I mixed up the order and just made it real random, so that way by the time I got to the overall story arc, Team A, B, and C would fight a different problem together, or after they solve all their problems, they find out that there's a bigger problem, that they got to team up together. It's how you write like Fantastic Four and these variety of different stories. And that's a book, that's a movie, that's a comic book. All right. So I did timeline outlining. My first book was Gold Digger Killer, which was the novelization of my movie. And that was easier because I decided to do that before any other story because I had screened it, it had been released, the movie did well, and people told me what it was missing. But I found out that, even an hour and 15, hour and 20 minute movie is a short book, that I had to add on more scenes. So how did I find out where those scenes were? When I wrote the outline for my movie, I was able to say, okay, this scene can go here, let me expand this changes that, this changes that. When you don't have an outline, I have no idea how you do that. I have no idea. And then another thing that outlines help you with is, like, I am a teacher, right? I've been working a job the last six years, where I didn't have the luxury of being able to write full time, so I've had to put my stories down. I would always try to finish the chapter, but I couldn't write a whole book, so before time expired. So I learned how to write outlines, and the value of them, they really help you putting the pen down and coming back and picking back up where you left off. And it's beautiful for that. So I love outlines for that. All right, the next tip. Carry a notebook or a tape recorder wherever you are. I actually sleep with one. I drive with one. I have a little note tab in my classroom in case I think of something. I mean, if I'm playing basketball, I may not play it with a notebook, but I may have one, in the car, and I'll hold it for a few minutes before I get back to, oh man, this focus is really bad, where I can write it down. So you just don't want to lose ideas. And I got to tell people, give you a Hulk analogy for writing. It's like, how the Hulk always says he's always writing. He's always Hulk. I am always writing. My stories are going on in my head even when I put the pen down, when I sleep. So, and that's what makes writing horror so challenging for me, is because I'm always scared or trying to be scared or always tense. I take on the characteristics of my stories while I'm writing them. Okay, read out loud is really helpful, especially for dialogue. But understand, even in your books, your story, your narration is a conversation you're having with the reader. So sometimes you got to breathe. A lot of writers don't know that. A lot of writers, especially fantasy, man, they go off on tangents for like hours, and it feels like you're reading an encyclopedia. And if you're writing prose or you're writing a comic book where you have dialogue, it's just important to hear those words. Something that to saying them out of your mouth really helps. Another one is storyboard. Now, you don't necessarily have to do a storyboard for a book, but for film and, of course, comic book, it really helps. I don't know how a storyboard works for a book, but for a film, I just did one for an animated part of my movie that I hope to have in there. I did stick figures, and I just read what I was saying while I turned the pages to the stick figure drawings that I drew, because it really helped. I was telling my wife, I was like, man, I need to do a whole movie like this, and it would give so much clarity, guidance, focus to people that you're working with. Storyboard is really helpful for that. Especially now, here's something, even with books, you're working with an editor or illustrator or camera crew or even a director. In film, you got to do this. You got to have meetings. But what meetings and notes allow you to do is to really pinpoint the things that you're doing, you want to focus on, you want to achieve, getting other people's feedback on these things. They're all helpful. Meetings are invaluable. I like physical meetings, Skype and video phones and all this stuff. All right, they ain't that bad, but I still think the physical meeting is more natural. It's better. I just think that is important. Was an editor I was meeting with over the phone. We still had a meeting. He had read one of my books, The Harlem Shake, and he was like, oh, it needs something. He suggested I take my characters on an interview and do character breakdowns, which is another tip. I don't know how much you need it all the time, depending on your story. It's cool to have interviews for each character, but that's something that came out of a meeting. And I may get into taking your characters on an interview later on, but that was something that came from a meeting. I don't do it all the time with all my characters because I don't need to, but it's a helpful tip. And then lastly, I thought of another one. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but the last one I have written down, and I don't know what number it is. Excuse me, I think it's 10, but I wasn't numbering them as I went. This is have a writing goal. Comic books or movies, it's a writing goal. Television, I was introduced to professional writing while I was working as a wardrobe supervisor on Apollo Comedy Hour, and it was a weekly. It was a weekly show, but we were doing 3 shows a week, and I saw how fast professional writers had to write. And I was like, when you're writing for yourself, you're writing a novel, yes, you can take a year. I know a writer I met wrote 1 book a year, and kind of that's been my pace in terms of releasing 1 book a year. But I personally feel I can write a book in 2 months. I can write a screenplay in a week, and a comic book, depending on whether it's a series or just 1 book, in a few days. However, thinking of the ideas of it is very hard to put a time frame on that. When you're writing sitcoms, you're not thinking of the sitcom. You're not writing a different set of characters every time. You are using the existing characters and manipulating them. So that's different. But in terms of writing, I know for me in writing books, I was like, if this book is going to be this long, how long will it take me to write it? And now when I write good, I can do 3,000 words a day. That's a healthy writing environment for me. I can see my family. I can live. If I got to write longer than that, man, I got to take vitamin E. My eyes are getting tired. I'm getting physically tired, and I can't sustain it every day. And I did write 5,000 words a day to get this other particular story done. I think it might have been 4,000 words, but it was exhausting. Now, it'll take me a couple of days to get up to 3,000, but 3,000 is comfortable, and it's not really anything to do with my typing speed. It's just how fast I think, because writing is crafting. You're crafting a story. It's not just blah, blah, blah. It's not freestyle rap, and even freestyle rap is thinking. There's a lot of thinking in there. Even if you're going to go back and edit it and do second edit, third edit, you save your time making sense, because if you go all over the place, you don't have an outline, your story doesn't make sense, your edits turn into rewrites, and your rewrites turn into rewriting the whole book or rewriting the whole story, because this doesn't work. So take these tips. They're tips, okay? Use them at your discretion. I don't tell people what to do. I tell people what they can do. So these are tips that you can use to make your writing a lot easier. Thank you very much. 5 minutes overtime. I think I'm going to just go for 15 minutes each time. That 10-minute goal is crazy. Thank you, Jeff Carroll out. Peace.